It was fall of 2006. I was a freshman at Guelph University. Guelph was a smaller town compared to the busy city life I was used to back in Scarborough, Ontario. I'll admit, though, it was sweet to live on residence and practice being a responsible adult. As a 19-year-old, to go from very little freedom to unlimited was cool. Students could go to certain classes and skip others without having someone call your parents to report an absentee was awesome. Teachers wouldn't hound you for assignments. There was no curfew. You could stay out late as long as you wanted and drink until you passed out. No one cared. You were in control of your life for once. Just as easy as going to school, quite a distance from home, your decision could set you up for success, but also losing control could lead to failure and proving to your family that you didn't have what it took to be out on your own. What a real disappointment that would be. Tuition was very expensive, but I was looking forward to the 4 years of experiences and memories I'll be having. I was grouped with 3 other girls in a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom townhouse. It wasn't very spacious, but definitely cozy. Marissa, Angelina, and Rita. These girls knew each other from Frosh Week, something I had missed because I was busy moving in and preparing for my classes. You could say I was paranoid of not screwing up my first week. The girls were also close with the other girls next door to us. They would come over most weekends to drink and party. I kind of enjoyed breaking the rules a bit and dabbling in underage drinking, although shots of anything was gross. I find it hard to keep down. These girls were kind of like a sorority. Now, let me tell you, they weren't at all the stereotypes you would see in movies. You know, the blondes who dressed in skimpy clothing all the time, with their handbags and makeup on fleek and bitchy attitudes. They were normal. They wore sweats and t-shirts while at home, no makeup. Friday nights would be the one day they would glam up and go out to the bar on campus. No guys would come over to our place. Well, that I knew of. But Marissa was a promiscuous one. She'd often sleep over in different dorms with a new guy. That wasn't any of my business, but I overheard the girls talking one day. It was the first snowfall of winter. My grades were pretty average, but as long as I was trying my best, I'd survive first semester. My favorite part of the house was the living room. We had a fireplace, 3 cushiony couches facing the coffee table, lots of pillows and throw blankets. I was reading the latest murder mystery novel I had picked up from the chapter store when my eyes caught the bookshelf in the corner. The shelves had an array of books about astrology and stars, lots of motivational books like Finding Your Inner Peace and self-help ones on conquering dreams. There were a couple on the secrets of dark magic and one called Spirits, They Really Exist. Pretty interesting selections. The shelf was also decorated with crystals of all sorts and precious stones, some scented candles, and a dream catcher. I went back to the couch and read a couple of chapters before falling asleep. I woke up to the noise of heels at the door. It was Marissa, Angelina, and Rita. They were dressed up in black dresses and were in the middle of putting their jackets on. "Oh, sorry to wake you," said Angelina. "We're just headed out for drinks." "Right," I said. "It's Friday." "Did you want to join us? We could wait a bit longer for you to get dressed," said Rita. "I'm exhausted," I told her. I actually had a stats exam that morning and was pretty drained. I wanted to take it easy. "Maybe next time," smiled Marissa, and they left. I slowly got up from the couch and made myself a hot cup of tea. I then went to shower. It was around 11:30 p.m. when I got into bed and played some episodes from the Ugly Betty series on my laptop. I then dozed off. It was around 3:15 a.m. that I heard whispers coming from downstairs. It must have been the girls. They were probably home from the bar. I was too relaxed in bed to check. I then went back to sleep. Shortly after, I awoke to some banging coming from downstairs. I slowly got up and creeped, step by step, without making a sound. I heard Marissa's voice. "Keep it down, Angelina. We don't want to wake up Stacy." "So, Rita, do you have the mice?" "Yes," said Rita. "Were you able to get Sam's blood?" Angelina asked Marissa. "Of course I did. It's the same deal with every guy I see. I had to make sure his drink was perfectly drugged so he wouldn't notice me drawing the vial of blood from him." "So," said Angelina, "what will we be asking for this time?" I need to get that A in physics to keep my GPA at 3.25, said Rita. I need a couple of extra thousands to buy myself a new wardrobe, said Marissa. I really want that Ashley girl in my women's studies class to stop talking all the time, said Angelina. I slowly peeked around the corner into the living room. There were candles lit everywhere. The girls were wearing a black hoodie that had an eye with horns on it and flames surrounding it in the shape of a circle. The girls started chanting something. They were reading scriptures from the dark book I saw on the shelf earlier that day. They then took a mice each from the glass bottle and took turns injecting the blood Marissa had taken from Sam in each mouse. They did a final chant, and I slowly backed away and went back into my room. I was scared. These girls were in a secret cult, and they were using innocent people as specimens to get what they wanted. I tried to fall asleep, but the eerie scene I had witnessed kept replaying in my mind. In the afternoon, I went downstairs. I acted as if I hadn't seen or knew anything. "Oh, hey, girl," said Marissa. "You're awfully up later than usual." I told her I was studying for the women's studies final that was a few days away. Angelina said how she hated that class and couldn't wait until the term was over. I asked her if she would be going to class today. She said she wouldn't miss it for the world, and then the three of them just smiled at each other. I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a cup of coffee. I looked at the table, and there were at least 12 shopping bags from designer stores, all laid out. I realized it must have been Marissa's, as last night she made a deal with the devil for a new wardrobe. I went back into the living room and said, "Hey, there's some nice goodies out on the table." "Yes," said Marissa. "I needed a complete new wardrobe for the next season. My parents really do spoil me." I laughed awkwardly. I then told them I'd better get going to class. Angelina offered to walk with me. When we got to class, the professor called on Ashley if she would like to explain the concept for one of the readings. Ashley had a note with her that she passed to the professor. I saw the professor mouth back to Ashley, laryngitis, and then she nodded her head. She then called on someone else to answer the question. I turned to look at Angelina at that moment, and she had a snarky smile on her face. Another thing that came true with the rituals performed from last night. There was enough red flags here to know that these girls were good friends with darkness, that they had no souls, and even if they did, they were greedy and heartless. I had to remove myself before I became part of their sinister ways. For the next few weeks, I was on edge, but kept to myself. I acted oblivious and stayed on my best behavior. Final exams couldn't finish sooner. I told my parents I wasn't in the right headspace and I needed to come home. The girls were a bit curious as to why I was bailing out on my first year. I told them I was homesick. I packed my things and got the hell out of the townhouse. I found another school I could transfer my credits to for my program, but that would mean I had to take a semester off before I went back to enroll. After all, the things I heard and the things I saw, I was willing to take that chance. It was a windy Thursday in Aurora, Ontario. I was on my way to meet my best friend Elijah. We met at least once a month to catch up on our lives. We used to live in the same neighborhood of East York, but after graduating high school, we moved out on our own. He lived in a condo near Yonge and Eglinton, and I was renting out a basement in a house in Aurora. Today, the traffic was very congested because of road development. I quickly texted Elijah telling him I would be a bit late, at least 20 minutes. He replied with no worries. After I got to the coffee shop, I looked around and found him sitting at a booth. I went up to join him and gave him a hug, and apologized for keeping him waiting. He said it was all good. We ordered 2 lattes and a BLT sandwich. We talked about how work was. I told him the salon I worked at promoted me to manager and I was real happy. He congratulated me and told me about his job, and how his boss wanted him to relocate to Winnipeg to manage the IT desk for a second location. They were hoping to open in a few years. I was excited for the opportunity he was getting, but sad that it would put a longer distance between us. Elijah asked me that maybe I should move out with him. I told him if I hated my job that much, I probably would have considered it. I took a sip from my drink, and then I felt like in my peripheral vision, someone was watching me. I slightly turned my head and I noticed a bald man with a thick mustache staring at me. He quickly gave me a look and then smiled. It was creepy. I brushed it off and looked back at Elijah. He asked me how my boyfriend Leo was. I told him we decided the living together thing wasn't working out and we're taking a break from each other. I was fine by it. I asked Elijah how his girlfriend Sarah was. He told me that it wasn't too serious and that he was planning on breaking up with her soon. I guess us being single was a topic starter as we talked crap about the people we dated. Did you bring your computer? Asked Elijah. Yes, I told him. My Mac laptop was running super slow and I really didn't want to risk dying on me. I had bought it 3 years ago and wanted it to last for another 4. Fingers were crossed. Elijah ran a diagnostics report and told me there was very little memory space left, which caused programs to force quit and crash. He pulled out an external hard drive and told me the best option would be to clear the disk space. About 30 minutes later, my files copied over to the drive and my Mac was good as new. I then was curious about the guy staring at me from earlier, so I looked back in the direction I first saw him, and he was gone. The creep was gone. The table now had a group of students seated, and they were drinking their milkshakes and laughing. Elijah then paid the bill, and I told him the next time it was on me. We both left the coffee shop. March was full of cloudy days. Today was one of them. It was a new month, and Elijah and I were planning on meeting again. The salon I worked at asked me to go in to train one of its new hires at a storefront they had purchased from a previously owned salon business. The location was in Yonge and Eglinton area where Elijah lived. I called him up and told him that I was in his area and we could possibly grab a bite to eat around there. He told me he was leaving work and that he wanted to pop by his place to change before heading out. I told him it sounded like a plan. He said he wouldn't mind if I let myself in, and he notified the management that I'd be coming by and to give me a spare key. When I got to his building, I picked up the key from management and I took the elevator. There's 15 floors, and Elijah lived on the 8th. His condo number was 808. I followed the signs and was in the middle of opening the door when I spotted someone walking towards me. It was the same guy from the previous month, the one that was watching me from the table at the coffee shop. He said hello, and he told me to wait. I was nervous and hella scared. How did he find me? I quickly opened the door and shut it behind me and locked it. He kept knocking on the other side. I texted Elijah immediately and told him there was some man stalking me. He told me to stay calm and that he was 5 minutes away, but the knocks, they just got louder. I sprinted to Elijah's room and opened up his closet door. I thought it would buy me some time, so I decided to hide. But when I looked at the inside of the door, I was instantly paralyzed. It was a literal shrine with pictures of me. Pieces of wrappers from the places Elijah and I had eaten in the past. Pictures of my ex and I, but with his face cut out, and Elijah's face from another photo was placed on top. There was a note that read, 365 reasons why I loved Kira and I will make her mine one day. I was sickened. I looked closely at the photos he had of me taped to the door. They were printed on an 8x10 paper. It was of me in a pink tank top seated on my bed, as if I was on my laptop. It clicked to me. He put spyware on. He was watching me. Who knows what else he was doing? I felt violated. I never looked at Elijah more than a friend. I couldn't imagine dating him, yet here was evidence that my best friend was actually obsessed with me. My mind was racing. And then I recalled him talking about his girlfriend Sarah, who now might be his ex. I always insisted he show me a picture of her, but he denied that he ever had one. What if Sarah didn't exist? I knew Elijah's secret, and if he found out that I knew, he probably would do something terrible. I just couldn't trust him after what I found out. I ran out of his room and opened the door to leave when I saw the same bald-headed coffee shop guy standing outside. I panicked. Why were there stalkers everywhere? I was trapped. But then he said, "Your name is Kira, right?" I told him yes. He said, "I'm an undercover cop. Your friend Elijah is someone we've been monitoring after a colleague from his work brought forward some evidence that he was spying on young girls like yourself, that he probably had a voyeur fetish that he was using to maybe pleasure himself." I had tears in my eyes. This couldn't be the real Elijah. I knew him most of my life. "We have enough stuff to lock him away for quite some time," said the detective. At that moment I saw Elijah walking towards us. He was looking concerned, but before he could make it, a group of officers intercepted and arrested him. I'll never forget that last look Elijah had given me. There was no innocence, just guilt. Since then, I've taken courses to up my computer security, and I'm very self-conscious of who I trust again. I want to rewind to 28 years ago. I lost my mother to a heart attack in the summer of 1994. To lose a parent that you had amicable relations with is more than just hard. There's feelings of emptiness, loneliness. Time definitely seems still. My mother was one of the rare ones. She was outgoing, never took anything anyone said to heart. She didn't worry about a thing, and even if she did, no one could tell. I had 3 sisters and 2 brothers. I was the 4th child, but the closest to my mom. We always hung out, and I would choose her over my friends any day of the week. When she was around, I knew no one could touch me or say anything mean. She was, in my eyes, my guardian angel. I was at school the day my mom had passed. She was found in the tub. Half her body was inside the tub and half hanging out. She was in the best of shape, so I wondered why she would be taken away from me so soon. But I also felt that she didn't want anyone to see her die. Even though that gave me comfort, I couldn't help but feel sad that she was alone when it happened. Did she feel pain? Did she suffer? Was she scared? I hope she didn't go through any of that. A year after my mom's death, I felt like it was time to let go of some of the things I was holding on to. My siblings didn't care much to rummage through her stuff, so they left it up to me. I started with the drawers. She had lots of clothes that had holes in them. I trashed those first. That was easy. I then went into the closet. There were sneakers, dresses, cardigans, pants, jackets from the 80s, nothing which I could salvage and repurpose. I tossed it out. I held on to her favorite red scarf and the ugliest sweater she would wear during the holidays. I then found a box sitting on the floor of the closet. I picked it up. Inside was a jewelry box with earrings, bracelets, rings, and a few fancy necklaces. There was also a piggy bank, $2,500 cash, and a gold mirror with a frame. I cleaned and polished the mirror, and I put it on my dresser along with the jewelry box. I remember growing up and my mom using the mirror to apply her favorite cherry red lipstick. One night, my dad was away on a business trip, and my siblings were somewhere in the city living their best life. I wasn't very social, so I stayed home. I changed into my PJs and sat in front of my dresser. I grabbed a brush and began combing my hair in front of my late mother's mirror. Suddenly, I saw my mother's face appear. I nearly fell off the chair. I quickly looked behind me, but nothing was there. I was spooked. But then, just seeing her face, those eyes, just calmed me down. I wasn't afraid anymore. A few minutes passed, and then she disappeared. A couple weeks went on, and I didn't have another encounter of my mother in the mirror. I thought maybe I was tired that day. I was getting rid of her things, too, and out of pure exhaustion, my mind must have manipulated the whole thing. I mean, the brain was a pretty powerful muscle. Another month passed, and I was putting a red lipstick on my lips, similar to the cherry red my mother used. It was my first night out on a date in several years. It then happened. As I was applying the lipstick, my mom appeared in the mirror. She was smiling this time and waving, blowing me kisses. I was so happy and complete. I felt that she visited me to protect me. I decided to cancel my date and stay at home. I wish my mom had spoken to me, said something comforting. I went to bed, but this time I slept with the mirror by my side. And it was another few weeks until I saw my mom again. I didn't tell my siblings or my dad about any of this because they would send me to a therapist, as I was the closest to mom, that I probably had the worst trauma. On this occasion, I felt different. as if my mom knew what I wanted, because she said my name, Janice. But it wasn't her actually mouthing my name. She wasn't talking at all. I was reading her mind, kind of telepathically. I was surprised and elated all at the same time. She said, "I just want you to know I'm safe and doing well. I'm always here for you, but it's not easy trying to connect with you every night." I responded with, "I know. I miss you a lot." My mom continued with, "I have a way for us to be together. If you agree to follow through with this one thing, I will give you time to decide. Now, there is a jar of rat poison under the kitchen sink. Dilute it with some water and drink it. The hurt will be temporary, and we will be together again, forever and ever." I stopped and thought for a moment. My mom, my precious, precious mom, was asking me to kill myself. If I knew her well, she would never do that. I told her I have to think about it. She told me how it would be so nice to hug me and hold me again. She then faded away. I cried throughout the night. 2 months passed, and we were now in midsummer. I was getting ready to go to the library with my friends when my mother appeared in the mirror. "Janice," she said, "have you decided?" I told her that I wouldn't do it. Even though I wanted to hold her again, I had so much to live for. I told her that I would prefer she not visit me anymore. I took the mirror off the dresser and I put it on the floor in the corner part of the closet and then shut the door. It was out of sight, out of mind. When I got back from the library, it was already 10 p.m. I quickly ate the takeout I picked up from Charleston Burger and then went in for a quick shower. When I got back, I fluffed my pillows and got into bed. I wasn't awake for long as I felt my body get heavy, sort of like the sedated feeling, and I went to sleep. Around 1:22 a.m., it felt like someone was shaking me to wake up. I opened my eyes and I saw the silhouette of a woman that resembled my mom. Her hair was open. I was sweating. This had to be a nightmare. I turned on the flashlight that was near my night table, and when I turned it on, I screamed at the top of my lungs. It was a decaying face. The cartilage from the nose was sunken. The sockets had no eyes. The mouth was all skeleton. It didn't look like my mom at all. It seemed like something was mimicking her form. My older brother John entered my room and turned on the light. The thing that was hovering over me then vanished. He grabbed me a glass of water. I felt anger come over me as I drank my water. A spirit was imitating my beloved mother, trying to make me end my life. I wasn't going to be fooled anymore, so I opened the closet door and took out the gold mirror. I repeatedly smashed it on the floor. The rest of my siblings heard the commotion and came in. They were calling me all kinds of names, like insane, for breaking such a special sentimental item belonging to our departed mom. I cleaned up the mess and threw away my mom's mirror. The next few days, I slept in my youngest sister's room. I was afraid that the thing would return. I'm glad to say it never did. Many years flew by, and I still was free from the entity that was controlling my life. I learned I had to believe my mom was in a better place. Life was short, and I needed to stop dwelling on my past and live for myself, to do the things that I wanted. I needed to get out of the house for sure. That's what was suffocating me and stopping me from progressing and moving on. I knew if I ever wanted to talk to my mom, I could look up at the clouds, because that's where she really was. Hey, Scary Story fans, I'm Suzanna Dutt, and thanks for listening to these short tales written and narrated by me. I hope you enjoyed them. If you have a creepy story that's fiction or non-fiction and would like me to share it in the next featured video, feel free to send it to the email in the description below. In the meantime, sweet dreams.